Thank you very much, Donna. Belmont, good night to you. Party Vice Chairman, Minister of Public Utilities, Senator Robert Lee Hunt, your own Minister of Finance, who is Party Chairman from Diego Martin, Northeast, Minister Colin Mimbert, your very own Member of Parliament for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, Minister of National Security, Stuart Young, your starring councillor, winner of the last by-election, leading the young people here in Belmont, Councillor Janelle Young, Nicole Young. Janelle is somewhere else, right? Nicole Young, Janelle is in Barataria. I speak of things to come. We have Nicole Young and Janelle Young. So Nicole is with us tonight here in Belmont. And of course, other party officers, my other parliamentary colleagues, Mayor of Port of Spain and his team, visitors to Belmont, Belmont residents, members of the media, the tens of thousands of you listening at home and following our program around the world. We're going live and streaming. A very good night to you from Piggott's Corner in Belmont. Ladies and gentlemen, we of the PNM are in the process in the Parliament of guiding one of the better budgets through the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to say something tonight which I've said before, but I want to say it again tonight. When I was sworn in on the 9th of September 2015 as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, leading a team into government, our government was just going out of office. Our situation was beginning to become known to us clearer, and the oil and gas price was going down, and we knew a lot of what wasn't pleasant. But the years ahead, 5 years allotted to us having won the election. So we knew we were having a very difficult journey. And if on that day in Whitehall, when this country saw a new government, the country was asked to take what we have in our hand now, given what we were starting out with, the people of this country would have taken it with both hands and say this is the best deal available. I want to remind you all that this country is going through a very difficult period. Not as a result of good things happening to us. It's as a result of certain chain circumstances and some of the things that we ourselves have done to ourselves. You see, the PNM is not the only political party in Trinidad and Tobago. We have a live and direct opposition. And of course, when we put a budget in the Parliament, a budget is about estimates, what we expect to earn and how we expect to spend it. And the numbers are approximations of what we think we can earn. Sometimes you earn a bit more, sometimes you earn a bit less on the various heads and subheads. But overall, the picture is one that warrants the attention of the population so that you will know how to take what is being told to you, and you've got to be careful who you're listening to. And when you come to a PNM meeting, we want you to be better educated and better positioned to deal with what you have to deal with. So, you know, I was looking at some numbers recently, and I want to share those numbers with you so that you could understand how to take the pills and the medicine and the prescriptions being put to you. Let's spend the time doing that for a few minutes. 1995, the national budget was $8.5 billion. Digest that. By 1997, it was $9.9 billion. By 2001, bring it close to home, 2001, our national budget was just over $13 billion. And all those years, we balanced the budget. In other words, 1995, we earned 8.5 billion, we spent 8.45. 1996, we earned 9.5 billion, we spent 9.3 billion. 1997, we earned 9.9 billion, we spent 9.9 billion. 2000, we earned 13 billion, we spent 12.2 billion. 2001, we earned 13 billion, we spent 13 billion. Where did it come from that we were earning 52 billion but spending 62 billion? That is how we changed the country. You know, if you look at the overall the expenditure for 2001, 13 billion, over time, we increased our earnings. When we trebled the earnings, we quadrupled the expenditure. So you treble the earnings as you grow over the years. By the time we got to 40 billion of core earnings, we found ourselves spending 52 billion. And lo and behold, that became a pattern of behavior. And you had people like Kamla Prasad Bissesa leading a government in Trinidad and Tobago who knows nothing about this, who has no interest in this, so prepared to run this country from ignorance and ignoramusness that she came inside the parliament the other day and did the most amazing thing. We are talking about a serious, serious matter, which is the government's involvement in LNG. There are 4 LNG trains in this country. National Gas Company is deeply involved. The government created the industry. Kamla Prasad Bissesa was Prime Minister of this country for 5 years. Spent the 5 largest budgets in the history of this country. And in her normal style, get up and asking one of my ministers to tell her what is the government's shareholding in the LNG plants. And you would have thought that if she didn't know, she'd have kept quiet and not let the people of the country know that as a former prime minister, she didn't know. Demanding that my minister would tell her, and we told her because she didn't know. She didn't know that of the 4 LNG plants that we live on in this country, the government owns 10% in the first one, no shares in the second one, no shares in the third one, and 11% in the fourth one. She discovered that after she was prime minister for 5 years and 3 months because a PNM minister had to tell her that. That is the woman who was running this country. And if you all don't believe that, go and look on the record. Ask the media to show you on television. A former prime minister was managing this country affairs and did not know our position in the LNG business. So you could understand why they never renewed one contract in the gas business. They had the point leases companies closing down or going month to month on contracts that should last for 25 years. Put the country in a position where you have to negotiate when the contract run out and they have a sword over your head saying if you don't give them the price that they want, they will shut down the plant. They left office not even beginning the negotiations, leaving us in desperation. But of course, they left you in the competent hands of the People's National Movement. So, if you digest what I just told you, you can understand why in a budget that has been so widely acclaimed across the country, in our 5th budget, the population understands by and large that we don't have the kinds of resources that we used to have. Understand that we can't continue spending so much more than we are earning. And therefore we have to restrict what we borrow, and we can't just give our children everything they want to eat or everything everywhere they want to go. We just can't be that kind of parent. We have to be responsible, and thank God you have a responsible government of the PNM in Trinidad and Tobago. Our population, regardless of where they are located in this country, also understand that there are always options. Some people get a pay when the month comes, they spend half on playway. Another set will spend half by outside woman. Another spend half in the rum shop. There are always options as to how you behave. It's the same thing with government. When you get your resources, there is never any one way to spend that money. And what the budget is how do you allocate that which you have as your earnings. So we have a budget in the 5th year, which is still a difficult year. There are lots of things that we would like to do or would like to have been doing, but we can only reasonably and realistically be doing what we can afford. Father, you know that. Mother, you know that. Sister, you know that. Brother, you know that. You only embark on what you can afford to deal with. The minute you go and do what you can't afford to do, crapo, smoke your pipe. So this budget, well prepared, and let me tell you something else too. They have a few cronies that's be talking about Imbert is not an economist. And we put our engineer to run the Ministry of Finance. Well, let me tell all of them something. It is the economists that they put that bankrupt the country. It is the engineer that I put who build it back. You see, we were expected to splurge because of the election coming. They're expecting an election budget. We prepared a responsible budget because we are a responsible government. And we are not in this about elections. We are about this, about the future, the sustainable position of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That is what this budget represents. So in crafting the budget, we look to see where we could give some relief to those who are bearing the pressure the most, persons with the lowest income who feel the pain. We look to see where we could give the middle class opportunity. And we look to see where we give the upper classes more opportunity to continue to be entrepreneurial. That is what governed this budget. This didn't have to be an election splurge budget because we are not expecting to be re-elected on a splurge budget. From the day you elected us, we started to behave responsibly. And we don't expect you to elect us on some splurge election budget. We expect you to look at our 5 years of responsible government and choose that for the next 5 years. And that is why we expect to win the next election. Because we expect that you, the responsible people in the majority in this country, you will choose a responsible government to continue to act responsibly. So we put the issues to you because the decision is always with you. If you want to be irresponsible and bring back Kamla Prasad and Munilal and Jolin John, it is your doing. And that is our position. But the one thing that we will make sure that you will never do that without the information available to you. So you can't say you didn't know and you can't say you go there with your eyes closed. The decision is always yours. So here is a budget being acclaimed across the country as the best set of options for the people of Trinidad and Tobago at this time. So we took a little longer in presenting that budget. 3.5 hours the Minister of Finance spoke for. But of course, you know, as well, he didn't say this, he didn't say that, he didn't deal with this, he didn't deal with that. If he had dealt with all of those things, all now he's still talking. In a limited period of time, you could only say so much. But of course, everybody, what is ailing you is the most important thing in the whole scene. What is important to you, whether it's the drain outside, your child abroad, the sick person home, the loss of job, whatever is most important to you is the most important thing. And it's only the government that has the responsibility to deal with all of that and come up with a basket of proposals that reasonably treats across the board with the problems of all of us. That's what it is. And we are not surprised after good, responsible work that we got acceptance and acclaim from the man in the street. And of course, you hear this stupid talk. You should have given them $20. You should have increased minimum wage by $20. Let me explain to you what that irresponsibility is. The Minister of Finance and I had a long discussion on the numbers before we settled on that figure of $2.50 per hour. What does that represent per month? Let them work it out and tell you. That could represent as much as $400 a month. Their pick is only $2.50. It should have been $20. But, you know, had we made it $20, given the effect it would have had in terms of a dramatic increase on persons who are paying minimum wage and creating employment there, many persons would have ceased to pay and ceased to employ. So you're asking me to administer a medicine that is guaranteed to have the effect of killing some of the patients. We didn't do that. We gave an increase that is not likely to have the effect of causing people to throw people out from jobs at the lower end of the earnings scale. And of course, you're criticizing the fact that we did, in fact, adjust the taxes when we started with the calamity of 2015. We increased taxes on the business sector because they are doing better than anybody else in this country. They are doing better than anybody else. But they tell us, oh, you will collapse the economy. The banks are still making increased profits even after they pay the increased tax. Understand? So, 3.5 hours on the Minister of Finance. The opposition leader is now allowed an equivalent time. And she came and she regaled us with plagiarism from this magazine, that magazine. I don't know who the hell wrote that for her, but by Lord. I could tell you something though. I made 5 budget responses in this country. And I wrote every one myself. There were nights I'll be in my opposition office preparing that budget. All my team bringing in their contributions. But I am responsible for the speech. What I said in the parliament is what I, as opposition leader, wanted to say to the country. You ever see me stumbling and bumbling to read what comes inside there? Because I knew it, I wrote it, I know it. There were nights when my staff would be lying on the floor, sleeping, waiting for me to conclude what I'm going to do to get up to type it. That's how we operated in the opposition. So we knew what we were talking about. We were not messengers and mailmen for anybody's dodgy script. But it did something. I kept telling you all that all the old talk from all of them, the pundits in the papers, pundits on the radio, in the university, in the opposition, the one thing they can't run away from, when you confront them, what is the alternative? The minute you ask them, what is the alternative, then you separate the sheep from the goats. So here we had alternative, because they brought a manifesto, They brought a manifesto to the parliament. Let me go through the main points of the manifesto. 1, Minister Leon mentioned 1, increase interest rates in the bank. You all, I don't have to tell you what that means. There's no guarantee that the bank will pay you any more interest on what money you have in the bank. But the guarantee, if they increase the interest rates, that the bank shareholders will do better than you. Price increase for you. So we have that clear. Increase interest rates. So that is monetary policy from the text we had last Friday. 2, do what the PNM refused to do. Devalue the currency. Meaning, market forces. You know what market forces mean? Who have more money by the US dollars, who can afford to pay it, don't get it. That's market forces. So if the rate goes to $10 per one, somebody could buy it. But you who have $6, you won't get it. Market forces will determine the exchange rate. We have said we will defend the exchange rate up to a level of 6.85 to 1 US. They say, no, let the market set the rate. That will benefit them, you know. Half of them who talking that have money abroad in US dollars, and you exchange the rate and their business fix. You here in Belmont and in Carpetchime and Tobago, what US dollars you have to change the rate? And then going to the shop next day to meet This costs $10 more, and that costs $5 more, and taxi fare going up, and this going up, and that going up, and all of them so happy, them who talking, only the P&M stand between you and that. You now know that. Also, we have lost $20 billion a year from our gas and oil revenue. We got to find some money from somewhere, so we tax a little bit more the business sector, who is the best of us in the country. Who do you want us to tax? The Martians, the Grenadians, the Venezuelans? Only Trinidadians who are earning better can be asked to put a little bit more in. So you know what? They will reduce corporation taxes. They will reduce it. So in other words, less revenue. Next thing, they will not only continue their irresponsibility of foregoing money on the law, they spent 5 years giving waivers for property tax. Cost this country billions of dollars. The law is still there. You know what they said in the budget debate here? They will abolish property tax. Meaning all of us with the $1 million homes in this country, while the country is going bankrupt, while they bankrupted the country, you will have your $1 million home. You will demand from local government road to fix, drain to build, grass to cut, rat to kill, mosquito, but you must pay no tax towards that. That is what we have, abolition, and then we will become the only country in the democratic world, anywhere in the world, that does not pay a property tax, where if you have property, to maintain the value and to support it. But all of them who have their extra properties in Miami and anywhere in America, they pay it on time, and they pay it on budget, and they pay it in secret. Every one of them. I went to Long Island one day when I was in New York the other day with a friend. Very nice community and lots of little corporate towns around. Good quality living. But every single thing there is paid for by the taxes of the people who live there. From cleaning the beach, to building the road, to the water, every single thing in that community, if you live there, you have to pay a tax to give you that service. Only in Trinidad and Tobago you can have an opposition. Just came out of government, planning to come back in government, telling you that they will abolish property tax. And somebody else, it can't be the government who's struggling to put medicine in the hospital. It can't be the government that's struggling to pay the public debt. It can't be the government that's struggling to keep your children in school or to pay the nurses. Somebody else will come and pay it for you. While they lie, wherever they lie and drink this and drunk and all that and have a good time. And the country going to hell in a handbasket. That's what they're offering you. And of course, at the same time, they're going to reduce the earnings from the corporate sector, and they will give up the tax that is due and payable. They will increase expenditure. Well, you know that, because you saw what they did in the last 5 years they were there. Even as the oil price and the gas price was plummeting, they was looking for every government account to spend every last dollar. We had the Green Fund that was specifically put there to fund environmental arrangements. They couldn't remove the money because the law says that money could only be spent on environmental issues. But the law didn't say you couldn't mortgage it and spend the mortgage money. They mortgage the Green Fund. They get the mortgage money and they spend and thief it. They overdraft up to the limit. We had $16 billion in cash in the NGC. They take out every cent. Everywhere, and I've asked the Minister of Finance to look at every single account that they left us and tell the country what each account was in at the day we came into office. Because I hear these people telling you and campaigning. Imagine putting on the parliamentary record that when they left government, the country was a paradise. And you know, that's an insult to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So you have a government that had a paradise here, create a paradise here, and you go to the polls and vote them out of office resoundingly? Somebody needs to remind Kamala Prasad Bisesa and her crew that there's nothing paradisical about being known to be corrupt and lazy. It is a minister of government who told you the prime minister took a weekend starting from Wednesday until the following Monday. And of course, our interest was never any concern to them. You want to talk about helicopter tonight? I saw on the news, they were mentioning that we grounded the 4 Augusta Westland helicopters. Those Augusta Westland helicopters were not bought for crime fighting in Trinidad on land. They were bought, and they're specially designed and have certain characteristics. They were part of the OPV deal. They were meant to work on the ship offshore. So they're very expensive because they would have been exposed to the sea. They canceled the OPVs. They didn't cancel that. They built a bar in one and are putting a big screen TV. But of course, apparently only criminals watching that and drinking that, right? But those helicopters were costing us hundreds of millions of dollars in maintenance. So we had a choice to make. Do we give the commissioner of police, if we ever had one appointed, that money to spend on crime fighting in the country, or do we ground those helicopters and restrict our use to the other helicopters? We made that decision. When I looked at what we were paying, there was one particular bill. I left here one Friday reluctantly agreeing to pay the bill of $120 million for maintenance. By the time I come back from abroad, the bill is $220 million. And when I asked the Ministry of National Security, what is this? How could this happen? My signature on the approval. They tell me after I left, they checked and they find that they had missed out something. $100 million have missed out. That's what's going on in this country. But of course, they tell you that they will do this and they will do that. And of course, you know, they will remove VAT from 700 items. We must understand that the UNC is dangerous to Trinidad and Tobago. Dangerous to this country. Because you know what she said in the budget response? That she had taken off VAT off all basic food items, and we put back VAT on basic food items. That is a lie. We retained basic food items VAT-free in this country, and we reduced VAT by 2.5%. That is the fact. We reduced the VAT by 2.5%, and the basic food items, which we determined are required to keep body and soul together, no VAT on that. Other items, because we have made adjustments in the tax system elsewhere, the other items that you choose to buy optionally, you pay the reduced VAT. But of course, this irresponsible opposition leader is threatening you that if they come back into office, they will take VAT off is whiskey, is Grey Goose, is caviar, is all kind of imported stuff that are not basic food items. So in one breath, you're going to increase the expenditure. In another breath, you're going to forego all the revenue. And in the third breath, you'd be dreaming that you're coming back here. So ladies and gentlemen, you have to watch the lies. You know, I was reading an interview that Basdio Pandey had with a reporter the other day. And I must tell you, when I look back at my history in the government and in the opposition, I served with Pandey, and I quite like Basdio Pandey. And so I'm reading the article, and the reporter is asking him about how he managed to run the country so well, and Kamala and Rowley making such a mess of the country. I just showed you there. They were earning $9 billion, they were spending $9 billion. They were earning $8 billion, they were spending $9 billion. That's how it is. But then the reporter, remember the media, access to the story from day one, and asked him, So it said, you ran the country on $9 oil, and you did so well, and these fellas have so much more than $9 and they carry in the country, and you say, that was decision making, good policy making. Let me put an end to this foolishness right now, because I don't want to hear about it again. And this is for you in the media. 1995, because Pandey came in 1995 when Mr. Manning called the early election and they surprisingly won. They link up with Tobago and they come to government. 95. The highest price for oil in 95 was $20.26. The lowest price was $17.21. 1996, highest price 26, lowest 17. Let's look at the averages for them. The average price for the year of 1995 was $18.43. For 1996, the average price was $22.12. 1997, it was $20.61. 1998, there was a dip, but the lowest price, the average price was $14.42. It picked back up in 1999, the average price was $19.34. 2000, the average price was $30.38. And in 2001, when Basdio Pandey left office, at the end of 2001, the average price of oil was $25.98. So media and Basdio Pandey stopped telling people about $9 oil. Never one day during Basdio Pandey's term was oil price at $9. But I tell you this so that you could see how easy it is. If you tell a lie, you just repeat it in Trinidad and Tobago. Just keep repeating it. And the more bold-faced you repeat it, it soon becomes a fact. And when was $9 oil? It wasn't to say, it wasn't even that $9 oil was in the Manning government just before he came in. $9 oil was since George Chambers in 1986. 1986, George Chambers was prime minister when the oil price collapsed to $9, and that contributed to the PNM being wiped out by the NAR 33-3. After that election where Chambers lost, you had a government of the NAR. Then you had a government of the PNM. Then you had a government of Basdio Pandey. And $9 oil jumped from quite by Chambers to last week in the newspapers. You understand? Because we are open to being lied to and being taken for fools. That's why Kamala Prasad Bisasa could have come in the parliament and tell us. When we mentioned that one of the imperatives we had was fighting corruption, because the reason why we are in this position today to give you the numbers we are giving you is because we have been successfully fighting corruption. She and the whole shebang ball out the parliament as though, She wants us to forget that the main reason why the UNC was voted out of office in 1995 is because 2015 is because the people of this country had corruption stuffed in their faces, and they had it up to their eyeball, and they couldn't wait to go to the polls to remove the government from office because she led a kleptocracy. It was a kleptocracy that she led. People come into office like Miss Howard Cat living all about, end up in palace. And of course, while we're fighting for you and trying to put things in place for you in a difficult situation, we have a wall of opposition people who are go-to persons for the media. And of course, everything that... Let me tell you who is facing us in this election. Let me tell you who your options are in this country. Your options are Kamala Prasad Bisesa, leading the pack. Munilal, Ram Logan, Ramdeen, Jerlin John, Watson Duke, Ashworth Jack Warner, and Glenn Ram. What do all those people have in common? Every one of them, the police has a healthy interest in them. And they are the ones, that is what this country has produced as an alternative to what we are doing in Trinidad and Tobago. But you, the people, you have an option because they can't choose themselves. That much I know. They could only get there if you choose them. Only if you choose them. And I'll tell you something else too. Let me tell you something else too. We in the government, we are very responsible. And we don't intend to behave irresponsibly. And that is why we have not told you a lot of what we in the government know, because we are required not to tell you, because if we tell you, the minute we mention it, they begin to accuse the government that the difficulty that they have is political. So this government has kept very silent on what we know. But they know what they know. And they know what we know. And they are desperate. And because they are desperate, they are dangerous. So tonight, it does not surprise me tonight that a minister of national security will come out here and tell the nation and the world that there are politicians in this country, some aspiring to office, some in office, who are conspiring with the criminal element, and that poses a danger to all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I expect them tomorrow to scream like a stuck pig and to accuse Stuart Long of all kinds of things. But let me tell you all something. You could not see the reason, but they knew the reason why they fought so hard to oppose the anti-gang legislation. You may recall, because you just forget too quickly, they voted down the anti-gang legislation. And it's only when you, the people, reacted to it and say, what kind of madness is this, that they called on the PNM government to come back to the parliament immediately and amend the standing order and check. They voted down anti-gang legislation. The police was desperate for it. The police was asking for it. We told them so. They give all kind of reason. They said the police, it has not been used, could not be used. They're wasting time. But when you, the people, reacted to their vote in the parliament, because you couldn't believe, some of you couldn't believe, that in the face of what is going on in this country, every corner in the country have a gang, and the gang has a gang leader. And we were going in the parliament to legislate, to criminalize that kind of terrorism in this country. And the opposition, the record will show, that Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the UNC voted down the legislation. When something is voted down in the parliament under normal circumstances, you can't bring it back under 6 months. But of course, parliament can regulate its own business. In pressure from you, the people, we went back to parliament and regulated ourselves under the standing orders and brought it back well before 6 months. A few days after you protested. That is how anti-gang legislation was passed in this country. And these were people who you would have thought would have been gleeful to pass the act because they had tried to use it before. We passed it before. They picked up no evidence. Days after the law was passed, they declared a state of emergency because they're bright and they have cojones and testicular fortitude and go out and pick up thousands of people with no evidence. You end up paying millions of dollars to people who should have been behind bars. That is the record. And when we fix the law and come to the parliament, they vote down the law. And now I'm hearing that they're in serious conversations with known people who have concern to the police. And those of you who think this is a joke, let me remind you all, let me remind all of you that somebody somewhere in this country killed Selwyn Richardson, and up to this day, that matter has not been solved. And let me tell all of you again, who will have a lot to say, desperate people do desperate things. When I was opposition leader and we going towards the polls, they did all manner of evil to destroy my acceptance to you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. One of the things they did, Before I was married, I had a child with a girl in Tobago. UNC operatives went to that woman and offered her money to go on affidavit to say I had raped her. When she refused that criminality, it didn't stop them from getting Vanilla Allen to come inside the parliament and make that disgraceful allegation. That is what you know. I'll tell you all something else too. They were so desperate to remove me from the lineup in 2015 that on 2 occasions they hired a killer to kill me. The first killer refused and determined that somebody has to know this, and went and told a government official. The government official came and told us. We told the police. While we're dealing with that, they went and found another one. He too refused. And by this time, Special Branch was involved, and Special Branch knew about it. There's honor among thieves in this country. It appears as though there's honor among killers too. And of course, when we campaigned, this was on the edge of the election, in the hands of Special Branch and private security. I used to be shuttled from my home into your meeting and shuttled back out. I couldn't come and mix with you because we never knew. In fact, there were places they were telling me I could not go because it was too dangerous. Understand? That happened in Trinidad and Tobago in 2015. And they know what they did. And they know what they're facing because we have told this country that many of them stole public money and will be held to account. We have been accumulating the evidence through the legal channels, and they know that. And that is why one of the first meetings I've had in Whitehall in recent times with the security forces of this country involved is to determine how to protect the Attorney General, because persons have paid money to kill him. Understand what we're dealing with in this country, eh? I tell you this not because I'm being irresponsible. It's because I want you to know. You can't say you don't know. I want you to know because I am the chairman of the National Security Council. So all of them who have your future in hand to bring you this land of milk and honey, they have a reason to want to get back in office more than anybody else. Because only when they get back into office, they can kill everything that is alive now. And that is their primary motivation. And that is why they would come to you and tell you all this pack of foolishness about they're going to cut taxes here and they're going to create 50,000 jobs with no money in hand and they're going to give back this and they're going to give you this. All they want is to get back into office to save themselves. Because you gave us a mandate to cut out waste. I could tell you now, the Prime Minister's office, which I operate, we're using, 23 ministers in the government? How many she had? It's almost $500 million in savings over the 5-year period by reducing the cabinet. I saw somebody in the papers, one of the imps in the papers the other day, saying, oh, the minuscule money that they give the CPEP people and ministers raise their salary. Ladies and gentlemen, not a minister of government, not a parliamentarian, has got a pay increase under this government. We had an improvement in the pension. I want to remind you all, parliamentary pension is a contributory pension. You contribute to it, and the pension is yours after. How you take it out of there is another story. They will lie to you with their eyes wide open. And there's something I want all of you listening tonight. Go and look at a movie called The Hack. And you will see where Trinidad and Tobago is featuring. It is a movie about this company called Cambridge Analytica. It's a company that came up with the philosophy of doing business by encouraging politicians to lie to their populations. And their position is this: it is not what people know as the truth. It is what you can get them to believe. It's like how you all believe that Basdeo Pandy run the country on $9 oil. You see how far that is from the truth? Well, that was the business model of Cambridge Analytica. Cambridge Analytica cut its teeth in Trinidad and Tobago because the UNC brought them here. And they brought them here with a mandate. And the mandate was to suppress the vote of the PNM that they believe was black people vote. And they will not go to the polls, and they will win the election because their supporters will go to the polls. Go and look at the Cambridge Analytica people talking in the movie as to what they were told in Trinidad and Tobago and what they did. But of course, when the Mark bus, all of them, we don't know anything about that. We don't know anything about that. Hundreds of millions of dollars were being paid from NGC through contractors, and the CDA was paying their operatives millions of dollars. They bankrupted the CDA, paying funds in that way. But of course, not me. It must be the COP. The COP said we never had no money. It had to be the UNC. But Trinidad and Tobago features prominently. And when you look at the lies that they're telling, what they do, they tell you a naked lie. And they're saying that that lie, even if some people don't believe it, it creates doubt. So all the attack on my character is not that you all will believe it, is that some people will create a doubt. I have fought in this country for good governance and against corruption. When I came to the parliament and told you all that they were thieving money hand over fist at Piaco Airport, they denied it. Some of them have gone to jail in America. Some of them still in Trinidad and Tobago fighting the courthouse. Right? They came with lies about my child's mother. They came with lies to Anika Gums from the Express. That's another story about some of these days. But the most important one, they got inside Petrotrin. They got inside Petrotrin, and they had Petrotrin reports created. I managed a state enterprise. I ran a department in the university. I know what an audit report looks like. And I know how you deal with an audit report. From the day I saw that audit report that came out of Petrotrin, that resulted in the AV drilling company being shut down, and Kamla Prasad be up and down on the UNC platform, which she fake oil, she and Munilal fake oil, all of a sudden them against corruption. I knew that something was wrong at Petrotrin. I kept very far from it. Very, very far from it. My government kept very far from it. Petrotrin, the company, handled it with its lawyers. You know, they would not let that rest. They had invested so much into it that they had to get something out of it, and what they wanted out of it is Rowley, the Prime Minister. So you know what? I'm in the parliament. I wasn't there the first time when Munilal came and tried to make a connection between me and AV drilling. The Attorney General challenged him, and he backed away. But he had come to Parliament pretending to have evidence to support that allegation. He waited for a while, then he came back in the Parliament, expecting that if he does the same thing again, we are alert to him, and the Attorney General or somebody else will stop him. You know what he did? He came with bank documents. And he read out in the Parliament from a bank document where he claimed he had personal knowledge. And the bank documents linked me to receiving money in a bank in Florida from AV drilling. Now, many people just hearing that would not believe that a member of parliament will just make up that. He had to have something there. And worse yet, Rowley say he knows the man is his friend. And they put their future on that. Put their future on that. I couldn't do a thing about it. Munlal in the parliament, under parliamentary cover, accusing me of rape, accusing me of theft and corruption. I can't do a thing about it until he come outside. And did he come outside? He came outside. And we are now outside. And that matter of money that I would have received from AV drilling in a bank in Florida is outside. And that is a matter for the judiciary that will determine whether your prime minister is a corrupt person or whether somebody else has questions to answer. That matter is in the court. You would have thought that even as the matter is in the court, that they will give it up. The man come back in the budget debate, did not raise a single item of the budget, spend the entire period trying to give life to this corpse. And of course, once again, produce bank documents with my name on it, with some bank in Guyana. And of course, he protected himself this time by he not calling my name, but give his imps on social media. And what the first imp, there's a woman called Suzette Law, whoever she is. Within seconds of Munilal talking, she was publishing the document. And of course, she being identified as the UNC operative, she removed my name from the document. But then within minutes of that, others had a document with my name on it. And the document, the only thing on the document that is clear that you can't mistake is my name and Dioki Singh name. All the other things are fuzzy and fuzzy and fuzzy and fuzzy. You can't really get to them. But the name as to who is involved. And that is the UNC campaign for 2020. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised one bit. Because we have done such a hell of a job in holding this country together that they have nothing that they could say that could bring them political support. But that behavior with Petrotrin, if you had listened to Ramesh Maharaj's press conference the other day, you will now know as taxpayers that the UNC nastiness has now put you taxpayers at serious risk, because whatever Petrotrin has to do now to save itself from that scheme, anything from there is for you, the taxpayers, to pay. That is the outcome of the nastiness that goes on. Imagine the other day we go to the parliament. One member of the opposition got up and asked the Minister of Health to explain his position on the outbreak of tuberculosis in Costard. Ladies and gentlemen, tuberculosis and cholera, wherever there's an outbreak, you make world news one time. The minute you hear cholera, tuberculosis, and the other one in Africa, Ebola, you make world news one time. Costard is a school in Trinidad and Tobago with thousands of our young people. If in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago an issue arose about tuberculosis outbreak among our students in a school, what does that do to us as a nation trying to invite tourists to our country? And you ask yourself, what is the basis on which a UNC member will come inside the parliament and raise cholera outbreak when there is absolutely not a shred of evidence or even concern that anybody in Costard even have a call for less cholera? But the model is disturb the population. Tell these monstrous lies. Don't let anything succeed. Don't let anything succeed. Don't let anything succeed. If it succeeds, the government will get credit and we will lose the next election. Don't let anything succeed. And that is why when we try to diversify the economy, to bring Tobago in and to give Tobago something to do that they could do, and we mention sandals, they move heaven and earth to poison the environment until the Sandals family says, see all you, I ain't had time with all you. Sandals is good for Turks and Caicos, good for Bahamas, they have 3, 4, 5. Good for Jamaica, good for Antigua, good for Barbados, good for Grenada, good for St. Lucia, not good for Tobago because the UNC says so. Understand? And that is why when we had to fix the biggest problem that every other government did not fix, and we didn't even have a choice, because the date that Petrotrin had to be fixed fell inside our term. The loans that Petrotrin was carrying, $850 million to be paid in August of 2019, fell at a time when I was Prime Minister, and when a PNM government is in office, you could run but you can't hide. So whatever you think about it, it had to be dealt with by this government. And since Petrotrin was not in a position to pay that loan, what was facing us was default at Petrotrin, which would have had a devastating defaulting effect on the country, or the Minister of Finance taking it on as a government loan, and that because the Minister of Finance would have taken it on, the guarantee would have sent up the public debt, would have been downgraded, or the government you elected to fix the country's problems could have done what you elected us to do, which is to fix Petrotrin's problem. So we restructured the company. I'm the only Prime Minister in this country in recent times to have addressed the nation on a matter of this nature. I addressed this nation twice on Petrotrin before it was restructured. And all those who think I was a joke, I was very clear. I was very serious. On the second occasion, when we spoke to you about shutting down the refinery because the refinery was the real problem, the real money losing was taking place at the refinery. We didn't have enough oil to refine and keep the refinery going profitably. We were importing 100,000 barrels of oil per day and losing up to $7 a barrel every day. And none of them did anything about it. But as I said to you all, you didn't elect me to get re-elected. You elected me to fix the country's problems. And that's what I am going to do. When I addressed the nation on that occasion of the closure of the refinery and the restructuring of the company creating Heritage Petroleum, Paria and Guayakara, I told the OWTU, if you say that the refinery is profitable and you are interested in operating it, the government will give you the first option. Within 5 seconds, I was being cussed by the union. But I don't get vexed with things like that. I wait for the light to be seen. When you see the light, they eventually saw the light. And of course, when we got to the point of inviting proposals for the refinery, we told the OWTU again, we will give you the first option to look at it before anybody else look at it. And they did so, because something was happening. I was speaking to you, and I'm still speaking to you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, about our need to create a new society. And in that new society, union leadership is not about marching up and down on pavement alone and talking who employing you. It's about getting involved in the commanding heights of the economy. And in this new society, there was a government that was prepared to make that offer to a union and say to the union, we will help you if you want to help yourself with it, because it will be good for the country. They did not come up with a sufficiently robust plan in the first pass when they alone had it. We said, okay, go and work on it again and come back in with the next 75 people. They came in, a group of 75. And we put not the Prime Minister, not the Cabinet, not even the board alone, we put experts to look at it and advise the Cabinet as to which of all these options, which is the best option for the taxpayer. At the end of that process, they said that patriotic, owned by the union, is the best option of all that was made to us. And this government had absolutely no difficulty in allowing them the opportunity to be the first in line. And you would think that Kamla Prasad Bisesa and the UNC that ignored this problem, that bankrupted the country, and now seeing the opportunity for labor, our largest trade union, with people who are going to benefit in constituencies that they claim that they love and they want to see prosper, would have come down on the side of saying, here it is in Trinidad and Tobago, a union is being brought from out in the cold into the economic mainstream with the support of the government and people of Trinidad and Tobago. No. They bar talk everything, bar talk everything, bar talk everything. Then come in her budget response, and out of the blue, she, as leader, told the country they're supporting the union advancing itself as the best option. So we say, what? Where that come from? Up to last night, you all were saying something else. But she only said that in the speech that somebody wrote for her. Because immediately after, Munilal got up and made the most scurrilous and obscene attack on the entire process, accusing the OWTU of corruption, of being in bed with some Surinamese, and that the Prime Minister was flying in private plane from Piaco to Caracas and create one monstrous conspiracy which may very well have destroyed the OWTU's ability to raise money to deal with that plant. Because which banker will deal with the OWTU now? Now that the parliament has been told that this whole process is one tainted with corruption, as high up as the Prime Minister, it was predisposed. And of course, before that, you know what they were saying? That I want to give it to my friends in the 1%. Remember? Remember she called me an Oreo? Black outside and white inside for Syrian interests? And of course, I was going to give it to the Sabgas and the Ansamakals and so on. And when it ended up for the OWTU, you think they would stop the nastiness? Munilal's conduct in the parliament would have so seriously prejudiced the OWTU's ability to deal with its bankers that right now, I am not so sure what the outcome is going to be. And of course, he has the gall to tell this government that has a mandate to fix the problem in our 5-year term that we must leave that problem of the refinery until after the next election. What is the rationale behind that? What is the rationale behind leaving it? I mean, he has a big pocket, but I don't think he could thief that. But to tell us, we have gone through a process, starting with my address to the nation almost 3 years ago, having our restructuring of the company, and being at the stage now where we are dealing with possibly the only reasonable bid we have. Why would you now leave it until after the next election? Well, we don't have any election timetable. That's why the PNM is 63 years old. We don't go from election to election. We are here for Trinidad and Tobago yesterday, today, and forever. It has nothing to do with any election timetable. What it has to do with is whether there's going to be a government in this country led by a prime minister who doesn't hold grudges. The best bid won, and the OWTU was the best bid. And we are quite prepared to do what we have to do if we can get it done to have the refinery restarted. And all that shenanigan in the parliament there, telling you about underhandness and corruption, is just the UNC again, dangerous to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And what they will be happy, the same way they chase away the Sandals project, the same way they go to Australia and try to get the Australian opposition to attack the Australian government from helping us to fund the 2 ferries for Tobago, is the same way they come now and trying to undermine what in effect is an outstandingly progressive development in Trinidad and Tobago, where a trade union could move across the line and move to take interest in the commanding heights of the economy of this country. They intend to destroy that too. But I want to say one word to the OWTU. And I don't think I ever did it before. But I want to quote Mugabe, because the UNC has called me Mugabe, right? Let me quote Mugabe for them. I'm talking to the OWTU here, and this is a piece of Mugabe. When your clothes is made of cassava leaves, it's not nice to have a goat as a friend. So ladies and gentlemen, the one thing that the children of Trinidad and Tobago could go to bed at night and get up next morning with a smile on their face and a spring in their steps and comfort in the heart of their parents is that we are all in this together. And that there's a government in Trinidad and Tobago which does not govern for itself. And a government that looks at this country that it has a bright future, even though there might be rain clouds ahead of us because the rains are so important. Ladies and gentlemen, I as leader of the PNM at this time, I as Prime Minister of this country at this time, I have every confidence that the vast majority of people in Trinidad and Tobago are decent, right-thinking, sensible people. So they want elections, they get election. Since January, they're calling for local election, and accusing us of not wanting to call the election. This is the first time that local election was called one day after the existing corporation expire. The corporations expire on the 28th of November. There's one working day after, and then the election is the next working day. First time ever in the history, because we of the PNM, we are not afraid of the population. It's your decision to make. And anytime you want to go and put that group back in office, it is your decision to make. The one thing you could never say, that you didn't know them, you didn't experience them, and you didn't know what they represent. So come December 2nd, Monday, December 2nd, I know many of you don't come out and vote for local government election. Come out and vote, take a stand. Take a stand. Take a stand. And when you would have done so, the only chant in this country, from Seagrass to Charlottesville, from Sandy Grande to Carnage, from Belmont to wherever, is great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM, and it shall prevail. May God bless Trinidad and Tobago.